Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's a fresh new PetaPixel podcast popping off right now. I'm joined with my good friend, Chris Niccolls.
Hi.
And I got my other friend. Hey, and I got my other friend, Jaron Schneider, here as well.
Hello.
This is a classic no weirdness episode. I think this is actually dropping like normal time. We're all in our regular spaces. This is pretty great, guys, right? It's like we're back to being professionals on schedule.
Yeah, for a brief moment in time as we prepare for the incoming onslaught of September.
The madness will begin. The normalcy will go away forever. Yeah.
Yeah. If you wonder why I'm sweating blood, it has nothing to do with this episode. It's just, the expectation of what is to come. But
for our viewers, his T-shirt actually is white, normally, the one he's wearing right now. But, yikes.
It has become dyed crimson.
He goes a little bit vampire when he gets stressed, a little sanguination going on.
Wow.
So, Jaron, I know this doesn't impact you, but this is definitely something that Chris and I have been dealing with. Today, up in Calgary.
Painful joints?
Yes.
Sorry.
Is the first day of school.
Oh, yeah. So
right before we did this podcast, I walked both my kids to their new schools. It is happening again.
Well, that must be nice to be able to walk them. That means your school's real close.
Yeah, it's actually super convenient. I can tell you exactly how long because I recorded it as a workout this morning.
I saw that.
Over there.
Thank God for technology.
I saw that.
4.2 kilometers to drop them both off. So that's a little ways.
That's actually pretty close. Or sorry, pretty far. That's a long walk.
Yeah, that's a big walk.
It's a big circle. Anyways, that got me thinking about learning. And when I think about learning, I think about books. Something that has never come up on this podcast before. And I'm curious, what is a classic book that you really enjoyed that you would love to reread coming forward?
Oh, like reread as in like, what if I read it as though I'd never read it before, like in a world where I'd never read this book?
No, just like what's something you'd like to go back to? Because I've found like 10 years is kind of like, oh yeah, it's been a while since I've read that or watched that movie or something. It might be time for me to revisit it.
I revisit everything like yearly. I don't kind of do the 10 years thing. If I like something, I read it or rewatch it quite often.
What's the next one in your queue then, Chris?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of things that I've read, multiple times that I go back to book-wise. The Road, for sure.
I haven't read that yet.
In a while. Great book. I have
it. I got it on your recommendation. I haven't read it.
Yeah, you still haven't read it? Oh man, you could do it in an afternoon.
It's a quick, breezy one. I need to redo that now that I have kids. I think it would be substantially more harrowing than when I read it pre-kid.
Old Man and the Sea I read with my daughter recently, so that's kind of done.
Did she like it?
She did like it. Yeah, she did like it.
He's looking at his library right now, folks. That's why he can't. He sounds like he's
all my
walking down a
fishing
hallway.
stuff, but I kind of read that. That's what's a good book actually that I would reread if I can get it again is The Feather Thief. That's a cool book.
I remember. We were traveling somewhere and you were reading that.
Yeah, The Feather Thief. Very interesting story. Just a quick synopsis. If you guys don't know, in the world of fly tying, there's salmon flies, which are usually tied as works of art more than functional pieces, and they're tied with a lot of like classic feathers from birds that are like across the planet, like tropical birds that are largely endangered. And so this whole like black market formed of people like smuggling rare bird feathers, right? And anyways, it's a really interesting story about this one guy who found a loophole to get bird feathers in a very unique way. I highly recommend it. It's an interesting read.
That is odd. I don't tend to reread many books.
Interesting.
I read a lot of classic literature through college, like because of learning and whatnot, and like I enjoyed classic literature back then. And now all I read is like smut, and by that I mean like man smut.
Explain.
I've read every
Manga.
single Jack Reacher book, and I will read those until he stops writing them. There was David Baldacci wrote a bunch too that were all very similar, just like the same general story. the hero goes and fights crime essentially, or
Right.
rights wrongs. Jack Reacher goes and breaks the arm of every person who's ever done anything wrong in their lives. That sort of thing. I enjoy.
What about the other Jack? What about the other Jack? Ryan, Jack Ryan. You
I
read all
haven't read
those?
the Jack Ryan books.
What?
I could. I don't read as much as I used to. I used to read a lot. I would say the only reason I do this, by the way, is when I read
Manga.
now, I'm doing it to I don't read any manga actually.
What?
I read to shut my brain
enigmatic.
off. I don't want to think too much. The last book that I actually read that was like classic literature was the Epic of Gilgamesh, and that was a quick read. If you want to talk like the road being an afternoon, this is like an hour. I read this whole the Epic in an hour.
There's this whole 50 Shades trilogy you could check out.
Yeah,
if you want
I'm
to turn
sure
your brain
that's
off.
a different type of smut.
Okay.
I would say though the book that I do repeatedly go back to, and it's a book that I give a lot of people. I always have a copy, and I end up giving that copy away, and I buy another copy for myself, but I'll give that copy away. Is The Phantom Toll Booth, and I feel like I've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
But it's a great book for kids, and my I call her my niece, but my goddaughter, she's read that book multiple times now, and she's 6, 7, somewhere in there, which is kind of early actually, but she's killing it on that book.
Time to read The Road already. What's
I'll go read it. I
Jeez.
have multiple flights coming, so.
That's a strong, because that might actually punt I was thinking I need to revisit some Hemingway again, Chris. When you brought up Old Man and the Sea, I was like, oh man, he's going to totally steal my. But I really want to do Farewell to Arms again. I think, Post Kid again, great book. But then the other thing too, we're not just talking fiction here. It's
That's the
time for
Spanish
me to
Civil War one,
reread
sorry.
the Ebert book.
the Ebert book.
Yeah, his autobiography, Life Itself, is spectacular. And I miss him. I miss his prose. I miss the way he thinks about things. And it's not extensively about movies. But yeah, just a great read. So I think those are both right up near the top. But yeah, Farewell to Arms is one of the more depressing books ever made.
Yeah, you've talked about
sometimes you
Farewell
gotta
to
do that.
Arms. Yeah, you've talked about Farewell to Arms before. I haven't actually read it. I probably should. And I always get it mixed up with The Bell Tolls, right? From The Bell Tolls.
For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is excellent, but I read
It
that fairly
is,
recently.
but it's, Hemingway, what I love about Old Man and the Sea is it's just like a great, it's a great story. It's simple. It really suits his style of writing. I find with at least For Whom the Bell Tolls, some of it gets a little cheesy and a little bit, especially like the romance and the love scene, not quite believable to me, but I don't know.
All right. Well, this was inspiring to kick it off. I actually have a plan for the fall now to do some book learning, and we should get going because we got a lot of news this week, guys.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Still,
What?
I miss when orgasms were described as the earth moving. That was really cool. Nobody does that anymore. Did the earth move? Yeah. Anyways, cheesy.
I don't remember. What book was that in?
That's all Hemingway pretty much. Read
Before
through the Bell Tolls.
Just for everyone who wants to know, what are we even talking about this week? We're going to talk about wildlife cameras and which one actually is the one
at hand.
that is doing a good job serving wildlife photographers. So we're going to do that. So let's get started.
Ooh.
Before we get into our news and then our main story this week, I do want to take a moment to ask you all, do you have a minute for the PetaPixel memberships? Because I feel like...
Just one, though.
Just 1 minute. Folks, if you haven't considered a PetaPixel membership, why not? It is basically a no-brainer, especially if you purchase used equipment, since PetaPixel members get 5% off all of their used camera orders from KEH. Or what if you want new equipment?
What about that? Well, help me out, Jaron.
Well, if you want a Fujifilm camera, I know that Moment sells
I do.
those. Or what if you want filters? Or
We're at 35
case,
seconds.
Or a bag? All of those things. Well, if you're a PetaPixel member, you get $15 off your first order at Moment. So that's already
What? That cuts your $30 a year price basically in half right there.
Yeah. It also
Wow.
gets rid of all of the ads on petapixel.com. You also gain access to our sample
We're over a
galleries,
minute.
which I have. Is it already over a minute?
Oh yeah.
Oh well, whatever. When the
a
Mormons
podcast.
come to your door or the Jehovah's Witnesses, it's never actually a minute. We recently updated the sample galleries with the most recent cameras that Chris and Jordan have reviewed, including the Hasselblad X2D2 100C and the Ricoh GR4. Those sample galleries are available to download now. And the last thing is you get 25% off the PetaPixel merch store, which I think we need to refresh Jordan's collection of T-shirts. I think they're getting too much wear, so we're going to have to take advantage of our own discount.
Look
and
at
get you
this
some more
thing.
shirts.
It's caked in.
Covered in blood.
Sweat blood.
So basically, the PetaPixel membership allows us to actually do this show, the more of you that will join, without having to worry about, we need a sponsor for this, otherwise we can't make it happen. So like this, the sponsor could be you, and we'd really appreciate it if you'd consider it. Anything to add, Chris, Jordan? Ow.
You did great. You did great. Other than it seems like we're almost paying them to get a PetaPixel membership.
I'm doing my best, man.
This is a killer deal. Yeah. No, I'm just saying it's a killer deal. It's a killer deal. It means a lot to us to do it. So we'd really appreciate the support.
Yeah, one thing I've started doing this year is actually subscribing to like the Patreon and things of people who provide stuff I really enjoy and appreciate, a bunch of podcasters and stuff like that. And you know what? Outside of all these awesome perks, it feels great to support someone who gives you something for free all the time.
Damn,
so
Jordan,
I highly
well
recommend
said.
embracing that feeling by giving us money, damn it.
Give us money. All right, well, I'm going to end it on that. We'll move into the news. There's quite a bit this week, actually, and it'll only proceed to get worse as September ramps up. But Canon has teased a new camera, and this looks like one that is supposed to be a Jordan camera. So, Jordan, give us your thoughts. What does this need to compete against in your mind, and how does it need to do that?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious based on when we saw the two vlogging cameras. I mean, I know the what was it? The V1, the integrated lens design camera was announced well before the R50V, but they both actually were properly announced at the same time when they dropped those two. So we reviewed them both at a very similar time, and I was kind of thinking like, hey, they've got the point and shoot competing with the Sony. What's that model? ZV-1 Mark II, and then they've got their APS-C one. I suspect that we're just going to see a higher end, like a full frame or a more advanced APS-C camera here. Because remember, the R50V is one of their more basic models, so there might still be room there. But just a more enthusiast, video optimized Canon camera. Because I do think like the R5C is getting pretty long in the tooth. Like the R5 II is a better video camera at this point, even though it doesn't have things like the fan or whatever. So there's room in Canon's product line. But I'm excited because I love the opportunity to review products where I host, shoot, and edit it. That'll be great. So I'm
You're
looking
being
forward to
sarcastic.
Wow, okay.
I
thought you were
think
actually
it's
being serious for a second
APS-C.
there. You think it's
I think
APS-C?
it's APS-C. I think it is. I mean, that's a quarter 20, looks like a quarter 20 mount on top of the camera, and you can see EOS-C if you look very carefully. So, clearly cinema kind of stuff. But if I look at that, my brain is telling me this is a fairly compact camera. You can't tell much from the top plate because the bottom plate could be, way bigger. But I think it's APS-C. It looks pretty small. Like the dimensions of it look quite compact. So I don't know, which would make sense. I mean, they could be building off, like Jordan said, the R50 series, but just making it a more cinema forward version of that as opposed to a vlog forward version,
boy,
which wouldn't be that exciting.
No,
I
that
don't
seems
know.
redundant to me. If it
Yeah,
was
but that's what
APS-C.
companies do. But, Canon is saying this is a whole new way to capture the world, whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
hopefully VR's back.
No, hopefully it's not. Yeah, okay. We don't know anything, but what we do know is that they've picked a very auspicious day to tell us more about this, and that is
Great.
our favorite day, September 9th, which is...
Yeah, last week we were saying like, hot scoop, guys, we just got an invite to some kind of Apple launch, which we, historically know what that is. So there's going to be a lot coming out from us in the near
Always.
future, I'm
Why do
guessing.
camera companies release stuff on the same day that Apple does? I mean, you're drowning your videos and your reviews and your content in the blood, so to speak.
Well, and IBC is going on at the same time, so that's
yeah, but
why it makes
IBC
sense
doesn't
for us to
happen
not
until
announce, but-
later in the week. They could have held this news 2 days.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah,
September
do
9th
that.
should be a national day of mourning. I think that's what we should do now, actually. We should make it just for all the creators out there.
Yeah, that's gonna stink. But anyway, new stuff doesn't stink. It's just very difficult to get your news to stand out when everyone is doing something.
national
really
mourning
exciting.
actually for the viewers, because you guys have to wade through or watch like 10 episodes that day. If you're really into
mandatory
the industry.
viewing.
So, yikes. I feel for you guys. I'm sorry. And we're not helping.
We actually don't know anything about this camera, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
this was news to us when we saw this posted. We
Yeah.
have not been briefed on it, so
But
we
there is some-
literally have no idea what it is. We actually are spitballing
No.
here.
I think
But there
all
is
of
some
us
other
like.
Canon news.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No,
he's
yeah,
trying to segue.
I'm
us
trying to
out of this.
segue because we're
okay.
getting off track here.
What did you have something you wanted to finish this on,
Oh,
Jordan?
I was just gonna say, I think we all had the exact same thing where it's a teaser and we're like, "Oh, cool," and then our eyes like glazed over to the actual date, and I'm sure we all uttered the exact same 4-letter word. Yeah.
I deep sighed, if it means anything, and then I sent it to you guys. So, all right, Chris, segue us.
Well, it's too late now, but I mean, there's more Canon news, isn't there? Because like Canon is again, and they've done this before. They are claiming that they have the top spot in the camera market share 2024. Now that they've got all their data back.
It's actually not Canon saying this. It's an independent third party. It's Nikkei.
Nikkei
And
Industry.
they have done way more than most of these companies will typically do for themselves. They're giving us actual numbers. So before you scroll on, I'd be curious if you guys could tell me how many cameras you think Canon and Sony, who are 1 and 2, sold in 2024.
Well, I already scrolled down, so I shouldn't guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I may have also mentioned it last week, but I'm sure that there's no room in your minds to hear to hold on to information that long. So.
I'm
They're all
feeling
numbers now.
because I know Canon was substantially higher than ISIS, which has been the thing for a while because they have a bunch of really affordable models. So I'm going to say 1.3 million Canons and 1 million Sonys.
No, you're way off.
Way off.
You're way off. Way off.
It's
3.5.
3.53 million Canon cameras were sold.
God,
in
I'm good at my job.
2024.
Yeah.
And Sony, they were, let's see here,
2.33 million.
2.33 million. So
2.33 million .evf. I mean, cameras sold. Oh my god.
Yeah. That's 28.5% of the total market. Canon has 43.2% of the total market. Here's the one that I found the most interesting, though. Nikon is in third, and their number of units sold increased pretty substantially year over year.
Yeah. But still not
Jordan?
breaking a million. Still not breaking
You're
a
not
million.
letting Jordan guess.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I didn't know
I'm
that was
done
still
now.
a game.
I've already made a fool of myself with the first
Fine.
two. So you know what? Just give them information without making me.
960,000 units.
960,000 cameras. That's up from 810,000 in the previous year, and they have an 18.5% market share. It's worth remembering that Nikon is significantly smaller as a company than both Canon and Sony. So like Nikon just does cameras and lenses. And they do it in like medical and stuff too, but it's not to the degree that Canon does, and Canon makes their own sensors, and Sony makes their own sensors, and Sony makes televisions and sound systems, that sort of stuff. So like Nikon's very focused on just being an imaging company.
Well, they also have
have
the robot that dances at trade shows.
It's true.
Yeah,
they
that's
do
true.
have ownership of
And a Land,
Mark
and a,
Roberts
and
Motion
a
Control.
Land Rover. And a
Okay,
Land Rover.
they don't own Land Rover. They just bought a Land Rover.
They
and
bought
painted
one.
it
It's
yellow.
cool. But you know what is cool? And I found this cool. So first off, which is interesting, Sony still has the biggest market share as far as CMOS sensors go. No surprise. I mean, they're over 50% in the market, and everybody else shares the rest. But what is really interesting is everybody except OM System actually had an increase in units sold. So that's positive, right? With all the doom and gloom that we've been hearing. Now, this is last year, right? This is 2024. But,
2024 was a really good year.
Yeah.
for basically everything. in this
Everybody,
industry.
almost.
Yeah, it was a fantastic year. Everything was great. I miss 2024. At any rate,
I know what's going to happen to this year. Who knows?
I don't expect things to be as healthy as this. The number 4 on the list was Fujifilm, and I'm actually really surprised. I talked to you a little bit about this, Chris. I'm kind of surprised that their numbers are where they're at. They almost doubled their number, which is great. They had 430,000 units sold in 2023, and they sold 740,000 units last year globally. I just feel like this is not because they couldn't sell units if they wanted to. It's that they literally ran out and couldn't sell more. This is all they were capable of making.
I think we also have to appreciate that with Fujifilm, like we talk a lot about how they sell every camera they make, but that's not necessarily true. They sell every camera of a couple lines that they make, right? Like it's I don't think XH2s are flying out the door and stuff. Everybody's getting XT5s, they're getting S100s, right? I don't know that even like XT50s did amazingly well. I'm sure they did fine.
XT5
I
is
think
probably selling really well.
Yeah, I think we have to keep in context. It's largely based on 2 or 3 cameras in their lineup that's doing well. That they then just can't make enough. I'm sure they wish, like, doesn't anybody want an XH2? Can we give away an XH2? Does anybody want to take an XH2? No? Okay, never mind.
One thing that wasn't clear in this, and I bet it's not included, I bet this is just digital cameras, is Instax. I imagine if you, but then again, Fujifilm not only sells cameras, but they also sell film. And as last time I looked, Instax made up like almost half of their whole imaging business. So I know that that's doing real well. Rounding out the rest, the order goes Panasonic sold 280,000 units. OM System sold 160,000 units. Ricoh sold 70,000 units. I am sure those are entirely GR3s and GR3.
And they all sold.
Pieces, all of them gone. Yep.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, OM is the only company to have a decrease in sales in 2023 to 2024, but it didn't have any products last year, so that's probably why. This year it has 2 new products, so I'd be curious to see how 2025 does when we get to this point next year. But this is the most detail we get, period, on like globally. How well these companies do globally. Yeah, like you think about it, that's a lot of cameras total sold around the world when you add them all together. That's the industry was strong. So
yeah, it's interesting. Remember a couple years ago, it was Sony and Canon were having a bit of a rivalry, and it was kind of hard to really confirm it. You know, they were both claiming like we've sold the most digital cameras, and you had to like really look at what kind of cameras we're talking about.
Sony would say it's actually full frame if you read the fine print, while Canon was
all cameras. Yeah, but and you know, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. It's interesting to me that Canon is so high in the market, not as a criticism against Canon at all. It's just it's more so like, you know, in our job, we kind of see trends and we kind of get feelings, and they often are shared by other people. You know, a lot of people in our industry tend to have similar feelings or similar opinions about certain brands over others. You know, these are really popular. People are responding to these ones maybe not so much or whatever. And Canon feels like one of those companies that you don't hear a lot of people generate too much excitement about.
But they just move
cameras. But they just move, Like,
and I have a feeling it's due to just the brand recognition. Canon has just insane global brand recognition. So when someone says they want a camera, they probably start with, oh, should I get a Canon or a Sony or a Nikon? And they just go out and buy that camera that they were giving away last year. What was it? The R100? Yeah. That was like $400 for that piece of junk. But they sold them because they were dirt cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think Nikon by far has had the best marketing out of the 3 big companies, this last year, for sure. Yeah.
Sony was quiet. They've been
very quiet. Yeah.
So
but again, they sell. Yeah.
Yeah. They sell units, but then and they increased, but they still, they sort of lost, I guess, public perception.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done anything recently. So what have you done for me lately is a lot of the way that the template works. So
yeah. What have you done for me lately, Eddie?
So that's interesting. I'm actually curious what you guys think, listeners. Like, I'm going to read the comments carefully here. Like, how do you take these numbers? Like, do they mean anything to you? And like, why do you think the companies land where they do? I'm super curious to hear your thoughts. So I'll be reading those comments really carefully.
I think we have to appreciate there's a lot of like Canon SLR users out there from like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, right? They haven't and have no desire to upgrade.
They have a T3i or T2i or T4i, and they
that doesn't count in those numbers.
No. But I'm saying is those people then migrate to mirrorless and they're like, well, hey, Canon's always taking good care of me. I think we don't appreciate that very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Anything to add, Jordan?
Nope.
Okay. Well, how about this then? Speaking of Nikon, the Z6 III got its first major firmware update, and it finally brought what we were promised, I think, when this camera was announced, basically. Like not long after they finally said they finally did it. It has C2PA. Hooray, Nikon did it. But it also adds bird autofocus and auto capture.
Yeah, I mean, the big one was the bird autofocus. That was everybody kind of jumped on that as soon as the camera was announced.
Like, why doesn't it?
Yeah, it's clearly like a perfect camera for that. You know, that fast scanning sensor and everything. So, that makes it a lot more flexible for wildlife moving forward. And the auto capture mode is really cool. Like, I don't think we could do a full episode on it, but being able to like make a camera trap where it's just in standby mode, and then when it detects an animal in the frame, it starts taking pictures. That's brilliant.
Yeah, like a trail cam.
Yeah, one of my favorite wildlife photographers, Joel Sartore, I don't know how it's pronounced. A bunch of my favorite images of his were like elaborate camera trap setups. And yeah, you could do something very similar without setting up, a laser link thing for them to break and then all that kind of stuff. It's just camera takes pictures when it sees things. It's really cool.
Yeah. Christy Odom digs that feature too. She uses it quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, as a wildlife photographer, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, she certainly loves it. But they added pre-release. This might be foreshadowing, but they added pre-release as well. But, for fine JPEG now, but still no RAW. Man, Nikon.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. We got a question about that in the tech support section, so we'll loop back to this.
Yeah, but C2PA is great. Auto capture is great. Bird autofocus is great. I mean, it's a camera that really seems like that's its wheelhouse, is like having wildlife camera, fast burst rates, compact, rugged. So yeah, it's nice to see that it has that.
Well, and it's also really nice, I think, so often all the camera manufacturers are like, yeah, we're putting C2PA in our professional cameras because that's what photojournalists use. But from our own experience, a lot of them are like, this is that $2,500 mid-range. That's what a huge number of them are shooting right now. So it's great to actually see support for that on a lower-priced camera as opposed to just the flagships.
On that note, though, Nikon has been saying they're going to put it on. They said we're going to add C2PA to the Z9. Like, I don't know,
one day.
2 years before they said they were going to put it on the Z6 III. I don't know. At this point, I feel like they're like, we'll just do it in the Z9 too, because it's time. That camera is still fantastic, but I have to think they're close to their next model. So that's what's wrestling inside me, I believe.
Nice.
All right, 2 bits of Viltrox news. Ooh. Firstly, Viltrox has joined the L-Mount Alliance.
Woo!
So that now makes them the 10th company. They join Leica, Sigma, Panasonic, Lights. I find it funny that Lights and Leica are considered two separate
separate, yeah.
But they're not, but they are. DJI, Astro Design, LK Samyang, Blackmagic, and Sirui. So hopefully we will see Viltrox actually release lenses for the L-mount as opposed to what LK Samyang has done, which is not that.
Get that 135 out there now.
Like, just remount them now, please. Like, I don't know what's taking Samyang so long, but I think they announced 1 or 2 when they joined the L-mount Alliance, and then every new product since has not gotten L-mount support. So, like, what was the point of joining then? Because you're not giving lenses to the users.
Yeah. They make great lenses, though. This is always positive. I mean,
Viltrox makes really good lenses.
They make really good lenses. I think, as I've said repeatedly, I think they're going to be the next Sigma, to be honest. They make really nice lenses. Although Sirui really impressed me with that 85mm Aurora. I was very impressed by that.
But if Viltrox becomes the next Sigma, then what does that make Sigma?
The next Nikon or Canon, I guess.
What I find interesting about both Sirui and Viltrox is that while they do make lenses, and I think for Viltrox it is their primary market, for Sirui it's not.
No, no.
They're mainly what? Tripods?
Tripods, I think, is still their
normally.
biggest.
Yeah.
And then Viltrox actually does a whole bunch of other weird stuff. They make like I have an HDMI monitor here from Viltrox. I have a Sony a camcorder battery. What are those ones called, Jordan? We used them recently. The ones
NPFs.
Yeah, I have a Viltrox branded NPF battery. So it's just like it's an interesting company because they do a lot of stuff. Now I think lenses are their bread and butter, but like,
they all make everything. These companies all make everything.
It is.
And who knows? I want to know the spider web of connections in the back of the Chinese photo industry. I really do, because I'm starting to think it's owned by like 3 dudes. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I did learn recently that Thipoc and Film are the same company. So
Right.
Oh.
Right.
yeah, right? Isn't that weird, Jordan? That
That's
they don't.
weird, Jaron. In my opinion, that's weird.
They didn't, and they aren't like advertising it at all. You have to dig into the site code and see that the copyrights are owned by Film.
Yeah. It's
Weird.
it's just a cartel. The whole thing's
Anyway.
a cartel.
More Viltrox news. Second bit of news. They dropped a 56mm f1.2 for APS-C cameras, namely Sony and Fujifilm. Fujifilm is, I think, the one that I would be the most interested in for this lens, the 56-1.2. It's also on Nikon Z APS-C. $580 for this.
Damn.
And I guarantee you it's good. But Chris, you got to tell us exactly how good, because I believe you have one in your house.
I think I do have one in my house somewhere. At some point, we'll play with it eventually. I don't know when. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's part of their Pro series, and I really like the 85mm. Not that they're the same lens, but, you know, similar idea. And the 85mm Pro was fantastic. So what I'm curious about here mostly, I know it'll be sharp. I'm curious about the bokeh. The sample photos look beautiful. They got a really nice model, and like it all looks very soft and stuff. But I did notice the full frame Viltrox had very interesting character to the bokeh, and it really did change quite a bit from wide open to stop down. And I liked it, but it's a little bit more complicated to use. The thing about Sirei that I really found is it was actually very clean. The Sirei reminded me a lot of Sony G Master 85, where it was just like super technically clean, no character, just like soft. So I'm curious to see what this one will do. From the sample photos, it looks interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the mount, the Sigma 56 is a very good lens. They're 1.4. But this is a similar price for quite a bit more light, so very compelling in E-mount. In X-mount, it's going up against Fujifilm's own 56 1.2, which Chris and I were both very big fans of when we reviewed
nice
that a few
lens.
year ago.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be the really interesting side-by-side comparison, is if you can
For half
get
the
a
price
way
almost.
cheaper one, too. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
how much? Like it can be worse. How much worse could it be, and you'd still be pretty happy with it? Probably significantly.
I don't think it's going to be worse.
And I don't think it's going to be that much worse. I'm just saying, how much worse could it be, and you'd still think it's a good deal. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
We'll see.
Other thing that dropped last week, DJI announced the Mic 3, a smaller, lighter, better wireless microphone. Well, better in some ways.
Yes, hang on. There's a big L asterisk here.
What's the asterisk, Jordan?
Looking at everything there, lots of really compelling functions. It can go up to like 4-channel out directly into a Sony XLR adapter, which rocks. But there's no place to plug a lav on this. So if you get this new DJI professional system, you will always have a dumb-looking box clipped to your shirt or on your hat or something like that. You cannot run a discrete lav out of these. So the Mic 2 is still going to be around for that. But yeah, I'm disappointed. I think this should be like a Mini 2 or something like that. To make this their standard bearer on the mic lineup without a microphone input is very weird.
Yeah, it definitely has an outie, not an innie. And I guess it's just because like everybody and their dog now as creators are just sticking them on their jacket and not wearing it's one of these things where it almost becomes the fashion.
They're holding them like this and talking into them.
Great.
This is Jordan's least favorite way to see someone hold a lav mic.
Yeah. Can we at least appreciate that even though you've got this black box with this bright white DJI logo on it, there's 5 different colored little dead kittens to put on there so you can match it to your blouse or jacket so that at least you don't see the fuzz, the windscreen. Like,
I like the green
silly.
one.
Of course you do.
Jordan, I actually have a question. You're probably not ready for this one. Do you have a Ceramonic Air? I know we have a bunch of mics coming to you. We are doing, for those listening, we are doing a comparison of microphones at some point. Saramonic announced an Air a little while ago, and it sits, I would say, in between the sizes of the Mic 3 and the Mic 2. The Mic 2 is actually kind of thick. I just pulled mine out this past weekend because I was cleaning my basement. I was like, wait a minute, this thing is dope. They are really small. They do take a lav. They come with lav mics.
Ooh, and Saramonic's making good lavs these days.
And well, they are different. It's weird. It's an interesting.
I'm sure it's not their
capsule.
premium one.
No, but the other thing that it does that I found interesting is that the unit that the receiver can plug into a list of Sony cameras and gain access to the audio pins.
Yeah,
so,
that's what DJI is doing here as well, is just straight electric contact to the 4-channel. I think we're going to see a lot of that going forward. But the big reason I think these DJIs are going to sell well is they are natively compatible to go straight into the Pocket 3, which we're seeing is one of the most popular cameras in the world right now. So if you want a lav for that, you might as well get a DJI. If
you're mainlining an Osmo Pocket, you want a DJI mic. Like it's just the way to do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, those listening, if you want to hang on, it'll probably be another month or so before we get to it, but we will be doing a comparison.
Yeah, I want to get a sample of those.
We were actually waiting for this mic to get dropped because we didn't want to do an episode before this came out.
They told us about this back at NAB. They've been sitting on this sucker for a long time.
Yeah,
it was back in April. I was like, wait, I can't plug a mic into this thing. And then I had to sit on that information
It was
until
the
now.
same briefing that they told us about the Mavic. The Mavic 4 Pro. They sat there and told us about both these products simultaneously, and then we're like, all right, cool, when they coming? And they were like, cool. All right, last one, and this is kind of unusual for a company. Sigma is changing the 14mm f1.4 Art's design, name, availability, and price because they're having a really hard time keeping up with production. Which probably has a lot to do with the ground glass elements. My guess is the tolerances are really tight on those, and they just can't make them fast enough.
That front element is ginormous. There's not many lenses that look like that.
Yeah. So what they're doing here is it is technically a DGDN lens, which is previously what Sony or Sigma was doing. And then they changed all that at CP Plus earlier this year. They did the whole revamp of their brand, and they got rid of the DGDN. They're just DG
I don't think they're planning to drop a lot of DSLR optics moving forward. So that was getting pretty redundant on all their lenses.
So the changes here is it's slightly going up in price. It's now $1,839. But I want to point out that it originally launched at $1,599. Tariffs increased that to $1,759, and now it's going up to $1,839. So slightly more.
Still a steal.
Still a very good price for this very specific lens. The other thing that's changing is you can't expect to just find this on a store shelf anymore.
No.
They're essentially saying that we can't. We're not making enough of them for it to be stocked. So what they're going to do is transition to an order system where they are opening a window for lenses to be ordered. Then they will close the order window. And then they will complete building all of those lenses. And then they will ship them out. So the way that this is working is the first order window will be September 4th through October 31st of 2025, and they expect to ship those in March 2026. Their next open window has not been fully determined, but it will be in 2026 sometime. I wouldn't surprise me if it's like just before they ship out the March 2026 orders, but like highly unusual for this to see this happening, probably just because this lens is so hard to make and in high demand.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to see more of this going forward, because Sigma have a few really specialized optics that aren't like anything else out there, where when they are announced, we're like, that is way less money than we were expecting. Like the 3-6 is a classic example, that 200 mil, same kind of thing. I do wonder if, at a certain point, once they've really established, like the Sigma brand right now is kind of one of the premium lenses, like Chris was saying earlier, what Viltrox wants to be. Now that they've established that, I do wonder if some of those lenses that we just know are going to be difficult and expensive to make are going to see a price increase moving forward after they've had the initial, like, holy hell, this lens is amazing kind of media storm.
Yeah. Chris, you actually really liked this lens, the 1414.
I did. Yeah.
I think it was our runner-up for Lens of the Year that year. Actually.
Yeah, optically it was fantastic. A fun astrophotography lens, and considering how hard it is to get something that wide and that good and that bright, it's a really good price. So what's not to like?
Yeah.
Apparently everybody else likes it too because it's very hard to get.
So, with that, we can move on to our main story discussion, which will be which camera company brand serves wildlife photographers the best. And so the rules for this that I came up with is they must have some sort of bird or animal detect in their cameras, and then they have to offer access to a fast telephoto prime or zoom. I was going to say it needed to be first party, but because there's like L mount in here, that's a confusing term since there's
that's
multiple.
tricky.
So we'll just go with you have to be able to get a fast telephoto prime or zoom. So prior to us starting, you guys agreed with the camera companies we're going to be discussing. It's OM System, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, and Lumix. So I'm gonna ask you guys to tell me what is the best wildlife camera and set of lenses, and then we're gonna rank them at the end. So,
and there's
Chris?
no one better to ask than I shoot wildlife almost never, but I've watched Chris shoot some wildlife. Jaron, how often are you shooting wildlife?
photographer.
I don't shoot wildlife except when I'm on a press trip where they give me a camera and lens to shoot wildlife with. But then when I do get that, I enjoy shooting wildlife. The last one that I recall was Costa Rica and OM System. That was really fun.
That's my hearty disclaimer for this. Is
I'll slam the Calgary Zoo every once in a while,
So that's why it was important to have Chris here for this discussion, of course, because Chris is the wildlife guy when it comes to this team,
Right.
and he's used
except
all of
I'm
these
not.
products.
But also, you should have me here because I'm on the podcast.
Well, there's a point coming up
obligation.
here in a couple of weeks. I brought that up is because in a couple.
Oh,
of
yeah,
weeks,
I see what you're
Chris,
saying.
You're not going to be available, so we had to do this
Damn.
before you left. So this is your discussion. So why don't
All
you go
right.
through these and tell me what you think?
Do you want to just do like our first choice back and forth kind of thing?
No, I think we'll just do them in order here that we put them
Damn.
on, and then
Okay.
you can
We'll
rank
build
them
our
at the
kit.
end. Yeah, so these are in no order: OM System, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, and Lumix.
Okay. Well, Sony gave me a lanyard once, so I'm going to say Sony is number one for this.
We're not
gonna be
ranking yet.
Well, you
Oh.
can. If you'd like to rank them, we can do it in this order then. You can rank them and then tell us what that kit is. So if you'd
Yeah,
like to do it
that makes
way.
sense, right? Oh, you
Okay.
want me to say the camera kit? And
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
think,
are
I
you
think we
getting?
put together all
Yeah.
of our different little wildlife packages and then rank them. Makes
Well, I'm saying
probably
it's
the most
Sony's
sense.
number one for me. Sony's number one for me. I
With what?
I think if you can afford it, an A1 or A1 II, I'd be interchangeable in either one, to be honest. It wasn't that big a change. But A1 or A1 II would be sort of like my ideal choice for that. Very fast, great resolution with the ability to crop in tighter. But even in like an A7 IV would be a good choice. Like the thing with Sony, of course, their autofocusing is fantastic. I do appreciate that. And the cameras are compact. And with some care, they're weather sealed enough. So, I wouldn't have any issues with taking them out unless it was like really, really severe conditions. They get a bad rap for their weather sealing. It'll handle most stuff. So the real appeal here, Sony have some great lenses. I mean, that's another thing. Their stable of original manufacturer lenses are good. Yes, some of them are ridiculously expensive. I mean, the 600 mm f4 G Master and stuff, those are made for the highest applications of wildlife photography or sports. But they do have some good lenses. The 200 to 600 is nice. There's a trend that we're going to see, I think, with a lot of the manufacturers. Like a lot of their more affordable lenses do tend to have floating apertures. But you got lots of choice. 200 to 600, great reach. 100 to 400 is kind of a bread and butter. I think for wildlife, I prefer having something longer. But the real appeal for Sony for me and why it kind of nudges them up is because of third-party lens support. Sigma makes so many good lenses for wildlife that are affordable, and they're all very good. Their 100 to 400 is cheap as dirt. It's very good. It's going to be the same kind of speed. The 150 to 600 is affordable, and it gives you that extra reach. The 300 to 600 f4 is actually really not that expensive considering, and I would love having a zoom like that with faster aperture. The 200 f2 II. Nobody else makes that. Like, you have these really interesting telephoto lenses that are fantastic optically and affordable. So I would put them as my number one.
We recently sold someone on that 300 to 600 in Alaska because they're unhappy with their lens not being long enough, and so now they're getting an even longer one. So you're right.
Great lens.
I do want to throw one in there as well. Is the Sony 300 2.8 was so incredibly light
Great lens.
that if you wanted to just go out for a little bit and then slap a 2x converter on that, not adding a bunch of bulk to it, and then having a 600 5.6 that's tack sharp would be a killer little wildlife setup if you don't want to drag something big.
You're still pushing a lot of money.
I had Sony at number one as well.
Oh,
So who's number two?
Me again? Oh,
Well, this is mainly just you, Chris. But yeah, Jordan's going to chime in on occasion. But yeah, this is your ranking.
So this is a tough one.
I bet I know what you're fighting between right now. I bet you're,
of course,
you're between Nikon and OM.
Oh, interesting. No, I'm actually fighting between Nikon and Canon.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I am. Yeah.
Canon's lens support is not fantastic.
Canon's lens support is not fantastic. So that is why I'm going to probably put Nikon as number two. And I'll explain Canon as well. But yeah, Nikon makes a lot of sense. Their autofocusing has come a long way. Even affordable cameras like the Z5 II give you fantastic autofocus capabilities. But I used a Z8 in Yellowstone, so I had a lot of experience shooting wildlife with that. It performed beautifully. The autofocus had issues, but they've largely fixed that now. I mean, that was quite a couple of years ago almost.
We should test it with driving snow again, see if Nikon can get through driving snow.
I know their video autofocus is a lot better in the snow now than it was back in the day. So I suspect they've worked on that.
They've come a long way. Not a lot of lens support, but their lenses are good. And Nikon, I think the one thing that puts it above Canon for me is Nikon has put a little bit more effort into making a wider range of telephoto lenses you can choose from. Some are, of course, obscenely expensive, but some are somewhat affordable, whereas Canon have a lot of weird lenses, which I'll talk about. But I think Nikon gives you that more full-featured system. Their cameras are affordable, which is nice in comparison. And the Z8 and the Z5 II, and now the Z6 III that has bird autofocus, which I didn't know about till today, would also then be a great option. So it gives wildlife photographers a lot of price ranges. It gives a lot of interesting lenses. I just wish they had better third-party support. That would, like, if you could get Sigma for Nikon, oh boy, you'd save a ton of money, and it'd be a really good setup.
Well, I think it kind of depends on the style you're doing, because if you like a telephoto zoom for wildlife, then, I mean, Sony is absolutely cleaning up. But if you are comfortable working with a prime, they have a bunch of extremely compact and incredibly good little telephotos on that mount. So you can get like there's the 400 5.6 that we were big fans of, and then they had the 800 5.6, and then the 400 f4, both of which I believe the 800 was actually our lens of the year when that came out. So they're really good if you're comfortable working with a prime.
But, they have the 100 to 400 4.5 is a nice general purpose zoom. The 180 to 600 is a nice zoom. I like those lenses, and they're not expensive. And I mean, I like that you're getting a fixed aperture at least. Like, it's nice to work with at least having a 4.5 or at least having a 5.6. A lot of the Canon telephotos are either going to, and we could talk about Canon. I put them third. I do still, OM System we'll talk about. Canon I put third, although their lenses, they have a lot of floating apertures in their telephotos, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's not the end of the world, but I'm not a huge fan of it. But they do have a lot of affordable telephoto primes. Slow ones, right? F9s, F11s, these kind of weird designs. And I think a lot of manufacturers are just relying on the fact that cameras can do better at higher ISOs now and don't necessarily need to worry about that. But I don't love the lens selection, so to speak, but the cameras are great. They focus fast. They're great for wildlife. They have some of the best animal detect tracking.
Which one is your favorite? Probably the R5 II.
Well, yeah, R5 II would probably be my choice. The R1 I would think is more of a specialized journalism sports camera. You could use it.
You kind of want more resolution for wildlife and birding, especially.
R5 II would be my choice. And it's a great camera. I love the body design. It's rugged. It's compact. The autofocusing works great. It has a nice fast burst rate. I'd have no problems using that.
It's just what lens are you putting on there? Like, what's the lens?
Yeah, I was thinking like the 1 to 3, but that thing costs a fortune.
No,
but there's
no,
nothing
yeah.
else like it out there. That's an excellent
No.
option. But
No, yeah, that's the problem. You know what I mean? I still think you can get. I mean, the 200-800 is a cool lens. It's just
slow as hell.
It's slow, yeah, but you're getting a big range, right? I mean, is it slower than putting a 2x converter on like a 5.6 lens? Yeah, a little bit. No, actually faster. So it's actually faster, right? So I know it's not terrible. You'd be relying on the 100-400 a lot. I remember actually one of the ambassadors, I'm not going to say who, I remember one of the Canon ambassadors be like, this lens is trash. And I'm like, what? You're crazy. I think he just didn't like the slow aperture. But I mean, 5.6, 400 mil, I can work with that today.
The reason that I'm hesitant on some of these longer lenses that are slower isn't necessarily that, yeah, sure, we got better ISO performance. Great, fantastic. I just don't like the rendition of the image on a lot of those. They just don't do it for me. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but like shooting at f8, f11, even with that much telephoto zoom, just tends to look kind of bleh.
Yeah, well,
I'm just not a huge fan of it. Before we move on to your fourth, there's one thing I wanted to mention. Back on Nikon, I've recommended the Nikon Z8 to 2 people, both of which like shooting animals. One of them took it on safari in Africa, and another one just shoots birds in Southern California. And both of them are just like over the moon happy. So like it's been. The recommendation has been holding, and they both are just like, it was a lot of money, but boy, was it worth it, is what they said. So
right. Look, there's no denying that Canon make really good optics. I do like the look of the shots that I've gotten with. I've tested a lot of these lenses. 200-800 I've played with, 100-500 I've played with, 100-400 I've played with, and I like the images I got out of all of those. The 100-300 is gorgeous. It's just really expensive, but that would be a great lens. I mean, that with the 2x converter would be very versatile. So if like money's no object, that's a killer kit. But I do still think, like, for me, I like having full frame for wildlife personally. I like having a bit more resolution to crop into if I want. And yeah, I like kind of getting that shallower depth of field kind of look for certain shots. So I do think personally I'm kind of full frame biased when it comes to wildlife. But that would bring us to the next, which would be then OM System. Micro Four Thirds. And I know OM System make a lot of play on this, like their cameras are very much pushed for wildlife. This is one of their hallmarks. It still doesn't mean that a lot of people are buying the cameras, right? But they have a very loyal following of the people that do. And the main benefits for me are going to be, of course, very compact. It would obviously be the OM1 or OM1 Mark II would be your ideal choice for wildlife. They're fast shooting. The focusing and subject detection is better than it was before. And I think the OM1 Mark II even improved a little bit. So is it still as reliable to me as some of the higher end full frames? No, honestly, not really. It comes down, but it's functional. I can make it work. And one of the reasons why I can make it work is because you do get a little bit more depth of field with the smaller sensor to help cover any sort of focus variation there. The beautiful thing about them is they're compact, they're lightweight, and they're rugged as hell. I mean, I have no issues ever with an OM camera out in the wild, rain pouring. Like we were just in Alaska. Not that I took that, but I would happily take a camera like that in those conditions because I think it would absolutely stand up to any sort of abuse.
Yeah, you wouldn't have had to worry about the weather that we encountered at all.
Zero
trash
worries.
bags.
Yeah, no trash bag, nothing. Like, and there's a beauty to that. There's also a beauty to the fact that if you're the kind of person where you want to have light because you're maybe backpacking, or you want to have light because maybe you just don't have the muscle strength, maybe you're getting older, or you just, you don't quite have that ability to hold these big lenses and haul tripods and monopods out. The other beauty of it is you don't need monopods and tripods, and you often don't need filters, and like they're very stable. They're very good lenses optically. You're just going to get more depth of field than you would possibly want. And OM System do have some interesting lenses for sure. For wildlife, it would be things like 150-600, 100-400. Their crazy, super expensive telephoto lens is really nice, the 150-400, but it's very expensive. But at least it is giving you a fairly shallow depth of field in comparison.
One I would throw out there for sure on that, the 300 f4 Olympus lens, which I'm very surprised hasn't been updated. Again, incredibly compact, 600 millimeter equivalent, takes a teleconverter, a nice fast focus. If I were just like a casual birder, that's probably the setup I would go out with.
Just out of curiosity, how do you think it affects these companies, from the public perception point of view, that not only are you sacrificing resolution and sensor size, but also performance? Like, I feel like in order for OM System to compete against full frame, they have to be remarkably better everywhere else.
Yeah.
And you're saying they're not, Chris.
Yeah. The cameras handle beautifully, and they certainly have a lot of the stuff that you'd want for wildlife shooting. Really fast burst rates, great pre-capture modes. I don't know. I mean, you're going to be shooting higher ISOs, especially in poorer light. And if you want the compact nature of things, I mean, you can't cheat light. So if you want more light, if you want the same equivalent light as a full frame 300-2.8, your lens is going to be ginormous, right? So you just can't get away from that. So yeah, you are going to be typically getting tighter apertures, more depth of field, worse.
You were saying the autofocus performance wasn't as good.
Well, that too. So their subject detection animal mode does work better than it did before, and it's usable. I can absolutely shoot it and use it for wildlife. So I don't want to give people the wrong impression. It's a perfectly capable wildlife system.
Usable, and raves Chris Niccolls.
Usable, yeah. But would I get a higher hit rate out of Canon or Sony? Probably, yeah. Sony for sure, and Nikon. I mean, I haven't shot a lot of Nikon for wildlife recently, but the stuff that we did in Moab with bikers and stuff, like on cyclists, and so it did an amazing job, way better than a camera that price should. So yeah, it's like
So you got two companies left. And these aren't brands that are typically known as wildlife brands, but they qualify because they do have the rules I stipulated earlier of bird animal detect and access to telephoto primes or zooms that are fast. So Fujifilm or Lumix, which one would you rather shoot wildlife with?
Yeah, Fujifilm. Fujifilm for sure. Yeah. And
what's their best birding? Like, what's the best wildlife camera in both medium format and APS-C?
Oh God, I'd probably want to go XH2 or XS myself. I feel like just having a grip is nice to have with those longer lenses if you're going to shoot wildlife and sports. The cameras, I would want something weather sealed and rugged.
So
XT5 would be okay.
XT5?
Yeah, extra resolution. XT5 is not. I'd actually want to go XS. Would be a really good option too. I like the image stabilization, the IBIS. I want to have something like that. Any of those cameras.
Which XS?
I don't.
The XH2S, you mean?
Oh, sorry? The XS20?
XS20. Yeah, I was trying to figure out which you guys say XS. I was trying to be which XS.
I just
XS20?
assume you guys who know XS. I guess there's a 10. Yeah, the XS20.
Okay. All right.
But something that's going to have some weather sealing, something's going to be a little bit rugged, have IBIS. Again, Fujifilm, I don't know. I know some people use them for wildlife. I've never really gone to them as a wildlife camera. Part of it is the focusing, and I did notice this on the XT50. Like, the focusing is okay, but not great for some wildlife shooting. Like, I was shooting bears with it. It tracks okay. It just doesn't quite give me the hit rate that I might want for faster burst rates and reliable. Like birds in flight and stuff, I'm not super confident with the Fujifilm. And I know there's a lot of guys out there like, Chris, you suck. I shoot this all the time with my Fujifilm and I'm getting amazing shots. I'm like, no doubt. All of these things can work in the right situations. But from an overall hit rate, no, I wouldn't say Fujifilm is that high on my list.
What's their best birding lens, would you say? Wildlife lens. They have a 500. The 500 5.6.
The GF lens.
Yeah, it's a GF lens.
Yeah, very GF sharp lens. In the middle.
Yeah, nice lens.
Which is what matters the most when you put it on an APS-C sensor.
Yeah,
that means the whole thing's sharp.
You have their 200 f2. I mean, it's a great lens. I do like it. It's optically fantastic. What would I take for shooting wildlife? So Jordan was talking about primes, and I like primes, but when I shoot wildlife, I'm a zoom guy. I definitely like having a zoom. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of optical performance or depth of field for zoom. So I'd be that 100 to 400 kind of range. 150 to 600, I remember being really big and really slow, but it's a nice lens. But I'd say 100 to 400. Again, Fujifilm they make great glass. It's just not high up on my list for wildlife.
Yeah, and the nice thing there is we are starting to see a little more third-party support as well. So you can go Tamron and Sigma on the Tele, and I haven't been like blown away looking at some of the native Fujifilm stuff. I just don't think telephoto's where they excel. So yeah, I'd grab a Sigma or Tamron, big old zoom, like a 150-6 or something.
And now, everyone's favorite birding camera, the Lumix G9 Mark II, I think is the one.
That's the one they said for birding.
Yeah,
And
so like for context for anyone who didn't know this, like 2 years ago at CP Plus, I asked them why the G9 II camera body was so big. It doesn't need to be. It's a Micro Four Thirds camera. The real answer is because they could save manufacturing costs by using the same body design that they used for their full frame cameras. That is the answer they should have given. The answer that they did give, though, was that they thought that birding photographers would prefer the larger, beefier grip, and it makes it easier to balance big lenses on. Yeah. That was the first I'd heard that they had even thought of birding photographers for the G9 series. So.
And then Jordan's like, this is a hell of a video camera. I can use this for video.
Yeah, when that launched, they were like, this is a photo camera. And Jordan's like, no, it is not.
No, it's not. It's a great video.
So, G9, what are you picking for a birding lens? It's either Micro Four Thirds, or sorry, not lens camera, Micro Four Thirds or full frame, L mount or micro. What are you doing, Chris? You have to shoot.
Damn.
Lumix. What are you picking?
I don't shoot Lumix for this kind of stuff. I mean,
But if you had to,
look, the G9 II is a great camera. I like it. I think it's a perfectly capable wildlife camera. I just feel like OM System does better in that regard, right? Because that's really been their push. So I would probably still be tempted to go back to full frame because I like full frame for wildlife. But they don't really make a good camera for wildlife shooting.
So yeah, it's because you've got the speed on the S1 and you got the resolution on the S1R2.
Yeah.
pick one.
I don't want either one.
Then don't go full frame. Go microphone.
Jordan,
No.
Do they have lenses?
The autofocusing is the same. Yeah, I mean, the L-mount Alliance does open up. They get access to all the same Sigma lenses, which are awesome. Yes.
It's a real shame we don't have a competitive, like, wildlife camera on L-mount, because you would have great lenses.
So look, this is the thing, and this is how I'll say it, because there's no reason the Panasonic shouldn't do a great job except for one feature, right? So Panasonic should actually be a really good wildlife camera. I would happily go shoot a 1 or a 1R2. The autofocus is the thing that lets me down. But the bodies are perfectly functional. They've got nice grips. They're customizable. They're super rugged. I don't think Panasonic gets enough effort for that. Like, I beat the crap out of that S1R2. I couldn't believe what it took in Norway, and zero issues. And we're talking condensation. We're talking fogging up every time, sleet, sideways rain, sideways snow. Like, it was brutal. And that camera had no issues. Cold, didn't matter. So I think I love the image quality. They've got nice modes like pre-capture modes. They've got good lenses. Certainly the Sigma stuff is what I would choose for that. What they don't have is just a really reliable autofocusing system. Their tracking autofocusing still won't stay on a single subject. Their subject detection modes work okay, but they're just not super reliable all the time. The only wildlife that we really had opportunity to shoot in Norway was reindeer, caribou, and frankly, they don't move very quickly, so great.
Especially not standing on the ice that they were.
No,
like sliding
they might have
around
been
like
frozen
Bambi.
in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, eye detected stuff works great. It's just not reliable in a burst tracking situation. And so
put that BF algorithm inside of a Panasonic camera, and then we would have it.
yes, doesn't mean you can't shoot wildlife with them, right? I mean, that's the thing. We're spoiled nowadays, I think, is the context that people will leave out when they then criticize me. We're spoiled nowadays. All of these camera systems actually are very capable of shooting wildlife in sports. It works better than pretty much everything we had in the SLR days, and we shot wildlife for that for decades. I get it. But when it comes to usable frames where you have a moment's notice and you want usable frames, what the context I'm trying to give is the brands I've talked about having better autofocus will get you more usable frames more reliably. And there's a lot to be said for that. I think if anything, I'm maybe a good test bed for that, because there are skill sets that wildlife photographers learn or use to ensure better focus, or to trap the focus or predict the focus. And those are great techniques. I think it's a good test bed from my point of view, where I'm not using a lot of those techniques. So for you, the casual user, if you're going to buy a wildlife camera and you want to be able to point at it and get reliable shots, I think this is a good recommendation. Also, remember, you have to put in the time and effort to learn your particular camera system's autofocusing setup, how to customize it, how to get the best out of it, how to make it track as best it possibly can track. Especially companies like Canon and Fujifilm and Panasonic definitely benefit from customizing the autofocus for the setup that you're doing. And if you don't do that, you're going to lose some frames for sure. Whereas Sony, their claim to frame is you just point the camera to subject and it works pretty well.
I like that.
Claim to the frame.
Yeah. Chris, I don't recall
too.
you making a choice on Lumix, by the way.
They're at the bottom.
Well, what's the camera?
Oh, it'd be I think it would be
I just wanted you to struggle to answer this one because one of them is going to have better autofocus because it's got a faster sensor, but you lose the resolution.
Yeah, I honestly don't notice much. I know we say that and it's true, but I don't notice much practical difference in sensor.
So you're going to go with resolution,
with autofocusing performance. What I'm struggling with is burst rate, and like shooting a baseball game with the Sony A7 R5, burst rate's not great. Great resolution, burst rate's not great, and I do like having the option for faster burst rates. You can go though into electronic shutter and raise them, but I don't know.
Pick one, Chris.
In that particular case, I probably would go.
Your noises. I need to pull these noises and have them on the soundboard that I can just play them.
I probably would still go S1R2 in the Panasonic case.
I knew it.
Not a huge difference in burst rate.
I knew it.
But like Sony, no, I'd want A1 for sure because I have the option for that.
Fine.
Right?
I wasn't asking about that. I was asking about Lumix.
And Nikon Z8 is great for that and stuff. Like those are just better platforms for what we're talking about. You get your cake and you get to eat it too with some of those cameras.
Jordan, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just, this is the one time I'm 100% on board with Chris for the rest of this, but I would go G9 II, absolutely, because Panasonic have some deadly wildlife specific lenses in Micro Four Thirds. The 50 to 200, 2.8 to 4 is a marvelous little lens. I have actually used that one on vacation to shoot the odd little bit of wildlife, and great lens. 200 f2.8 as well, getting you that very compact prime. I think they're great, and I mean, as Chris mentioned, sometimes I find like that focus can be just slightly, it feels a little bit inconsistent when you're shooting it. This is the same issue they had with DFD, but I do find once you actually check the images, it does a fairly good job. It's just the shooting experience just feels a little inconsistent, but you do definitely at the end of it, especially because you do get a little bit more, as Chris mentioned, that kind of depth of field cover with the Micro Four Thirds. So I would go G9 II all day with a 50 to 200.
Wow. You're right. They have great lenses and it's a great camera. The phase detect, lack of phase detect really drives me crazy.
But the G9 II has phase detect.
Yeah, it does.
So G9 II.
So
it's still yucky to use.
For the listeners, as a recap, the ranks for Chris are Sony, Nikon, Canon, OM System, Fujifilm, Lumix.
Sorry, everybody's offended.
Now, Jordan, we already know what Chris is going to pick. Chris, your number one pick, if you're saying you have to go shoot birds, you get anything you want, or you have to shoot animals, you're going to pick an A1 Mark II with Sigma optics, correct? Or even with Sony optics.
Yeah, if money is no object, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Jordan, do you agree with that choice? Would you? Money's no object. You can shoot whatever you want. Because I'm going Nikon Z8.
Yeah, just in terms of the body there. I think I would lean towards the Sony just because, I like primes for that. I like a really light setup, and that 300 2.8 on an A1 Mark II would be pretty fantastic. That would be my number one pick personally, but absolutely second place would be a Z8 with one of the compact telephotos. Primes again.
I just don't feel good. I just don't like the way Sony cameras feel in my hands. It's been a while since I've really liked it.
Right.
Nikon just
Fair
feels
enough.
right. So my dog.
But then if we went by
me.
feel, it'd be R5 II anyways, right? That camera feels so good.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap this and move on to what have you been up to. And while you tell them what you've been up to, I'm gonna let my dog out of my office because he's being demanding.
I'm gonna open a carbonated beverage. So go, Chris.
Oh, what have I been up to this week? Oh, I heard that. Nothing really.
Oh, that must be
God,
nice.
I haven't done well. It's all been work, and that's. I mean, is that what I've been up to? I've been working like crazy.
We had Labor Day yesterday. Did you do anything fun?
My middle son has a job at Annie's, which is like an ice cream restaurant shop. So we went and saw him at Annie's on his like second shift of ever. So that was cute. Some patio time. I went out with my sister for her birthday kind of thing. But that's it. We actually went to Vacay Brewing. It was really good on the veranda. It's pretty neat. It's like a brewery and a distillery and a restaurant all sharing this one veranda, which is kind of nice. Yeah, it was good. And Vacay makes some great beers. I mean, again, I had their salted black lager. Awesome. So they have some good beers, but that's about it. Like that's nothing crazy. How about you guys?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well,
What?
I went and picked up a beer that Chris has been desperate for me to try.
What?
For a while now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I got it at Uwajimaya in Beaverton. Orion. It is
Yes,
an
Okinawa.
Okinawan beer. Chris and I actually tried to get into this bar in Tokyo twice within 8 months of each other. The first time there was no room in there. Either that or they just didn't want to serve us because we were gaijin.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
He was very polite at telling us there was no room, but it was crowded in there for what it's worth. Then we went back recently in March, tried to go again, and it was
Couldn't find
not
it.
there anymore.
Yeah, it's gone.
So maybe if they had accepted our foreign currency before, our money, they'd still be there. But no. So anyway, this was the only place that had an Okinawan on tap, but it wasn't there anymore. We may have to look again to see if we can find it. I found it in can, Orion, and I told Chris that it tastes just like Budweiser, so that explains why he likes it so much.
The king of beers. Yeah.
I had another one yesterday, so I'm enjoying it. It's
a nice alternative to a lot of the more like malty beers that you get from Japan typically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it is like a North American flavor.
It's a rice beer, which I found interesting because it did not taste like a rice beer.
I mean, so is Budweiser, right? You know.
Is it? I thought they put barley in there.
Yeah, but it's also got a rice finish in it too. Yeah.
It's very Budweiser-y. It's fine. I'll finish my 6-pack.
There you go.
And then I barbecued yesterday because it was Labor Day. And and I got my panoramic film photos back from the X-Pan and the TX1. I'm really happy with my results. They look really nice. You can check them out on Threads.
Did the TX1 stuff come out?
Yes. I shot mainly in black and white for that, though. So those are all really kind of just moody. But because the focusing was not working correctly on it. So
but they still came out good.
Yeah, they still came out.
Nice.
I went out. I also did some barbecuing, and I don't have a barbecue. Like my old one kind of fell apart. We used the wrong cleaner on it, so the bottom of the barbecue actually disintegrated a couple of years ago. And I keep being like, I'm going to get a new barbecue.
You should.
And yeah, but I'm like, if I'm going to get a barbecue, I'm getting like, a smoker / giant bar. Like I'm throwing money at it, and then I can't justify it. So I'm just sitting there in not barbecue limbo right now.
Do you want my old one? Because mine it's just sitting there. It's probably a mouse house right now. I mean, you're welcome to it.
All you need is
as long as the mice come too.
Yeah, you can have all the mice. There's probably a skunk in there. I don't barbecue.
Ones.
My barbecue's been sitting.
I just need like a stopgap, but I keep being like, no, I'm going to go all the way with the barbecue.
I have a stopgap. I have a stopgap for you.
And I also have like a regular, just a grill, like a charcoal grill and barbecue. I have both because they're for different circumstances. You don't want to do everything. You don't want to always have to fire up the smoker. You want something quick and dirty, something easy. Just put the chimney on it.
Why didn't you tell me that
got
sooner,
like a hybrid
Jordan?
thing where, it's smoker on one side and then barbecue on the other, and you can actually have the smoke go into the barbecue chamber.
I've seen
if you
those.
want.
Yeah, because he's a pit boss. He's got
That's
a pit
great.
boss.
Not a huge fan of those personally, but you can do whatever you want.
All right.
But do you want a Superstore stainless steel barbecue full of mice? Because like, I don't know if it's got mice in it. I'm sure it's fine, but I haven't used it
no
in
longer
years.
in season. Let's see where I'm at
I haven't used
in
it
7
in
months.
years.
So I did. Sorry, that was just the start. We went actually out to a weird. It's called Charmed, and there are a whole bunch of little.
I'm sure.
Little cottages that are like styled like fairy tales.
Okay.
And I'd never heard of this. My wife found it. So yeah, we went out there with the kids, and the cottages were cute and everything. I stayed in the Huntsman themed one. So it was, pretty metal with the bow and arrows and deer heads everywhere in it.
You would have loved it, Chris.
but it had a fire.
I don't think hunting is metal.
It is. It's totally. It was the most metal cabin. It was all black. Anyways, we were in there, and they had a fire heated hot tub, which was kind of fun because then during the day you get the fun of poking at a fire, and then at night you got a hot tub that you can claim ownership of. So that
you basically
was fun.
barbecued yourselves. That must have been fun.
Yeah.
You did the thing from that show that you didn't like, the boiling.
Yeah, but I made many references to Shogun while the children were jumping and splashing and having a good time in there. Just like
Again, that's my culture. Careful, don't be culturally insensitive to my culture.
Again, don't boil people.
We're boilers. That's what we do.
That's my PSA, and I stand by it. Don't boil people. If you're tired of boil people, just don't do it.
I bet you don't like this,
offended.
Chris. I bet you don't like Oden.
Oden? Not really.
Yeah, I knew it. Because it's your culture. You don't like any of your food.
Stop it.
Oh, man. All right. We're going to move on to tech support and never read the comments. First one is an email from Chuck. Hi, Jaron, Chris, and Jordan. I work at a space museum, and part of my job is to make their photo and video content. I also do freelance work, most of which is related to photography rather than videography. On top of all of that, I also do photography as a hobby, usually landscape. I've used a few different brands for my, quote, daily driver cameras, including Nikon, Olympus, and Lumix. Even though most of my work is photography rather than videography, the Lumix S5 II seems to be the best choice for me right now for a few reasons. For one, it's great for astrophotography. Lumix is the only brand that I know of that puts the live composite feature into an affordable full-frame camera. This means that in order to make a star trails image, I can process one raw file instead of blending dozens of exposures in Photoshop. Do you agree, Jordan?
I think it's one of the great unsung features on those cameras. They're amazing time-lapse cameras as well. They're my favorites for time-lapse.
Finally, Sigma has lots of wide-angle lenses that are perfect for landscape astrophotography.
One of which just got a lot more expensive. Sorry.
I hope he has one. That would be a great one to have for that camera. While also being relatively affordable, that's still true. Honestly, this is just my opinion, but the only camera system I've used that's better for astrophotography is Olympus. I'm sure OM System is the same, but with the obvious disadvantage of its low light performance. Lumix is by no means perfect for photography, but right now when I need a camera that does well for both photo and video at an affordable price, it's the right choice for me. But if any rich person wants to ship me a Z8, I wouldn't say no. Love the podcast. Keep it up. Sincerely, Chuck. So that was just a comment. Just wanted to share that that is an example of someone who bought a camera that people would typically not say is for what his use case is, and he's perfectly happy.
Yeah, for his use case, it's a great daily driver. I mean, again, Panasonic make great cameras. S5 II is great. S1's great. I think for astrophotography, they're absolutely fantastic. In fact, that was one of the strengths that we had in Norway.
I was just saying it gets overlooked. Panasonic will get overlooked for any of its photo features because everyone thinks of them as a video camera.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
Based on the news last week where the S1II's dynamic range is really overperforming, we have more information on that. It is frame blending. So that's very cool. Jeremy published a story this week on PetaPixel regarding that. So you can find out more deets. But yes, if you want a super fast scanning sensor with crazy good DR, then Panasonic's worth taking a look at as well right now.
Yeah. They're great cameras for that kind of stuff.
Next one is an email from Dino. Hi, dear PetaPixel team. I wonder if that was supposed to be Hi, PetaPixel team or Dear PetaPixel team. I'll take Hi, Dear.
Hi, Dear.
I shoot Micro Four Third mainly with an EM5 series because I shoot mostly during travel, and I love the form factor and its maneuvering.
Yep.
Totally. But I'm also open to other choices. I'm recently caught up with some confusion during my product hunt. I'm tempted to pick up a Sony, be it an A6700 or an A7C II, to experience the great autofocus ability that I read on reviews while still being relatively compact. However, I went to their demo center and instantly found their EVF to be uncomfortably small. It was really disappointing to me. However, as I also read a lot of reviews, I found a strange thing. The A6700 and the A7C2's EVF, I believe they were very similar, if not identical, actually looks not so bad on the spec sheet. In fact, the spec, 0.7x, was on par with my current machine. I think it's funny that he calls this camera a machine. I compared them on camerasize.com, and I noticed that the EVFs on the Sony has a significant shorter height. I hypothesized that despite the EVF's internal devices were not that bad, projecting a relatively fair size as indicated by the magnification, the viewing area is hampered by the limiting small external frame. So my question is, am I right about that? Could there be some spec that is currently missing in camera reviews indicating the actual viewing area of the EVF? Thank you. I really enjoyed everything you guys are delivering.
Mm-hmm. You are right, Dino. Absolutely, 100%. Like, if you ever look at the diagrams of the EVFs themselves, there's effectively a lens in front of the EVF, right, which is transmitting that light properly to your eye, and so that will dictate things like magnification factor, which is roughly like how far does it look like you're looking down a hallway at your EVF, because that can be an unenjoyable experience. And most cameras nowadays have pretty good magnification factors. 0.7 is pretty average, where a lot of them sit. But then you also have things like eye relief. How far away can your eye be from the EVF while you can still see the screen? That's often something a lot of people complain about with their eyeglass wearers. And then, just the actual physical frame that they choose to fit it in. Like, if they're trying to fit it into a really small housing, there are compromises to how centered your eye has to be able to see the whole EVF, how close it has to be. And so, a lot of those compact cameras, they go with, especially the rangefinder style ones, where they're forced to mash it into the corner, it does tend to be pretty poor, and it's not an enjoyable experience. And so you're absolutely right, Dino. And that's why a lot of companies like to go with the DSLR style pentaprism on top kind of look, because you can then make a bigger eye cup, larger elements, less issues with keeping your eye centered for the most part. So you're not the only one to complain about that. I mean, my favorite camera is a Panasonic GM5. That EVF is like one of the worst experiences you'll ever have with an EVF. But it is just kind of a fact of having such a compact design.
Yeah, it'd be great if there was just a standard unit of measurement, but effectively we just have to say like this EVF, it feels large and bright. You take a look at it.
You got to try it
in the store.
Yeah, and you did. Otherwise, A6700, awesome camera. I think it'd be a great walk-around travel camera. If I was going to do a really small, do everything camera, that would probably be pretty high up on my list. Yeah. Or the A7C2, honestly. A7CR.
All right, the next one is a speak pipe from Josh.
Yeah. I also think it's worth pointing out those Sony EVFs don't have great. Sorry, those Sony EVFs don't have great resolution either. Those particular ones.
You just cut Josh off.
Sorry, Josh.
Here we go. Josh again.
Love the podcast. I'm Josh. I'm from the Great Land Down Under. And over the past year or so, I've been starting to do some documentary filmmaking for a charity that I volunteer for. And out of that, I've gotten the opportunity to now travel internationally for a mission project. And part of that is I'm capturing the trip. I see you guys do loads of traveling, and I was sort of curious as to what recommendations you would have for lighting equipment with that. Whether you had any particular product recommendations or just a general setup idea, whether we use cob lights in a softbox or whether a panel light is better for that sort of scenario. I do want to keep it sort of on a budget, but I understand that the camera gear market in Australia is very, very different to what continental US and Europe even have. So looking for a lightweight and cheap setup, which gets me the sort of maximum results. I don't know if you guys carry a lighting kit around with you, or just sort of interested to see what you guys recommend.
Before you guys go, since he's doing video, honestly, like the Lume Cube, I'm using a Lume Cube. It's not a cube. It's a rectangle. It's a flat panel, battery
Deceptive
powered.
name.
Yeah, it's got battery built in as well, but I run it off of a line here when I'm at home since I don't care. But I use the battery one actually to look at negatives in my film room. I have two of them, so one of them I lay flat and I lay negatives on it, and the other one sits in here. It's got color balance control, remote control. Gets pretty bright. I'm not even running max brightness right now. I mean the light quality is not going to be what you're going to get out of like a nice softbox and a proper monoblock, but like it's fine. It gets the job done.
Yeah, I'm really into something that's modifiable when you're traveling because, bringing lighting modifiers, it takes up a ton of space. When you're doing that, I really don't like a lot of panel lights. Like the looks of ring lights are great, but they're a pain to travel with. So I would go with just an extremely small cob and bounce is usually my quickest workaround when I'm traveling. So we've got like the little Westcott L60B that's lighting me right now, a very small package, and you can run that on Sony NPFs. Those are great. And then the Amarans for color accuracy are surprisingly good. I've got a 200X that I just love the look of. A tiny bit bigger, and you just want to run that off mains power, but that again would be a great travel kit. And if you're bouncing, a little more power is really useful there. But again, quite a bit more money. I think those Westcotts are just a steal for the price, and the actual heads of them are so incredibly small.
Honestly, if you don't want to get like a whole light, the thing that we travel with the most is just a multi-disc, like a
Yeah.
flip, like a
The best.
they just work real well, and like if you've got access to natural light, which tends to look pretty darn good most of the time, unless you're shooting in broad, noon light. Even so, you can bounce it and make it look a little bit less harsh if you fill in those shadows. So.
Yeah. And then as well, you can also use it as negative fill. Recently, we brought a whole bunch of lighting equipment on a trip, and we didn't use any of it because the natural light was so good, but we sure did use the neg fill on the reflector.
Yep. Anything to add there, Chris?
No, I mean, we didn't use any of that light, that we brought to
Nope.
Alaska.
We
What a
set
pain
it
in the
up.
butt.
It was ready to rock, and then it looked totally fine without it. And we actually needed to kill some shadows.
That's right.
Yeah,
So as
yeah.
opposed to relighting it, no, let's just increase the contrast by reducing the light. Easy,
There
quick
you go.
workaround.
All right. The next one is I think it's from Adam. Yeah, that's Adam. It's a speak pipe. Here we go.
Hey, PetaPixel crew. First off, I just want to start by saying thanks for doing this podcast every week, and thanks for doing your show. I really look forward to every upload, whether it's something that I intend to use or look into at all or not. I just think it's nice to hear your opinion on things. Real quick, especially for Chris and Jordan, I recently, just today actually, quit my job doing videography work for a company straight out of college. And while it was interesting work, it wasn't very enjoyable. I really wasn't having a good time. Boss and I really didn't see eye to eye, and I think it just wasn't meant to be. So I stayed there for a year and did what I could, and decided after a year it was time to move on. Left him in a decent stopping point, and now we go our separate ways. But what I'm going to is a camera store. It's the only camera store in my area within 2 hours of driving. And I just kind of want to know, like, what to look out for. I've accepted the job. I know general information about it, but I don't know. Is there any, like, trade secrets you can tell me? Any tips and tricks? I'm taking a pay cut to be here, but it's something I'm interested in. I want to be a part of a greater photographic community outside of the internet. I like seeing the folks that come into the store and working through what they've got going on. So
Interesting. For selling at a camera store, if there was there's no tricks really. You kind of have to put in the time, I think. So the first thing is you definitely want to have good knowledge of all the camera systems that you're talking about. And you do have to have a good understanding of all the lenses, all the bodies, a lot of the stuff we talk about here, what they're good at, what they're not good at. But you also have to get time on them. So most camera stores will let you take the gear out, go shoot a project with it. That way you can tell the customer real world experiences that you've had when trying to relay this information to them. I would say most important thing with photography customers is you want to ask them a lot of questions right off the bat. What their intention is with this, like what they're going to be doing, what kind of projects they have coming up. It's not only a fun way to make relationships and talk shop with people about photography and videography, but also you have to understand what kind of goal they have so that you can then better guide them to what gear might be better used for them. And I think one of the hardest things for a lot of customers is they come into a store and they have preconceptions about what's going to work best for them, or maybe their friend suggested this, or, they watch some hack like Chris Niccolls tell them what he thinks. And then they're like, well, this is what I want to do with it. You might say, actually, I feel like this kit would be better for you. So asking lots of questions, making sure you understand the gear, and then absolutely saying, I don't know. If you don't know, I think that's super important. I think a customer will vastly appreciate if you're like, I honestly don't know what that feature is, or if this camera has it. Let me go ask and find out. And that helps you build a rapport with your coworkers, but also like people, you can't just give out the wrong information. That will curse you down the line. So make sure that you are giving them the best information, admitting when you don't know, making sure you then learn that for next time and play with the gear. That'd be my recommendation.
I mean, my big one, you touched on it right at the end, is it's great to be able to talk to people doing completely different things than you. I know a bunch of my collaborators were just customers at the camera store who were looking to do something cool and interesting, like Levi Hallwell, who's been doing work with us, Alex Mitchell. That's the best thing about it. So definitely kind of leave yourself open to the possibilities of working with some of those people, do a little side project or something, and that's a great chance to test stuff out. As well, you said you didn't see eye to eye with your boss. I'm assuming there's a type of video production that you'd like to do. Just do it. Like, even before Chris and I were doing the Camera Store TV, I would just take gear out and shoot. I shot like a short film that was terrible on an XLH1. When the 5D Mark II came out, I shot like a wedding video silent film on it, again, just for giggles. And just keep doing that, because the opportunity to just have all this gear at your fingertips where it's actually really useful if you just borrow the stuff, I think that's super invaluable. And yeah, I loved working at a camera store. I actually went back and worked on Saturdays for a little while when I was at DP Review because I missed that experience so much. And now I don't have the time for that. So while you've got the opportunity, yeah, it's a great gig, and it's a real opportunity for you to do something more creatively fulfilling, even though being in a store might not sound that way at first.
Is that a dig at me that you don't have time to go to the store? Is it my fault?
No,
100% it was, Jaron. You should never forgive him.
Once we started going 2 episodes a week at DP Review, it was pretty much that way, which is a schedule we're maintaining, hopefully. At our that became unsustainable.
I want to point out that I did not tell him how many videos they were supposed to make. They came to
That was
me
a mistake.
and said, we're going to do it this way. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, we should have said 1. Anyways, too late now.
All right, we're going to do one more. This is another speak pipe from Chris. Not this Chris, different Chris.
Hi, PetaPixel Podcast. Just a couple weeks ago now, I bit the bullet and picked up a Nikon Z8 in light of the upcoming tariff price increases. I love the camera, but I'm slightly disappointed that for all the wildlife marketing that they do, it fails to deliver pre-capture in anything except JPEG. Is there any reasoning from Nikon as to why? As other more talented wildlife photographers have noted, at the highest raw compression levels, the images are in fact smaller than fine JPEGs. And I doubt that it's a speed issue from the camera itself, as I found it's capable of bursting for hundreds of frames at 20 FPS high efficiency raw. If I'm not filling up the buffer by holding down the shutter for 8 seconds, why can't I get a second of pre-capture? Thanks, Chris.
I have a long explanation from Jeremy. Yeah.
Now,
Jeremy,
can we just say Z6 III did resolve the compression issue, right? Like, that's something that they've addressed here, right?
like this week, this past week.
Yes. Okay, what did Jeremy say?
So there are reasonable explanations for why, but Nikon hasn't and won't comment on why something is omitted from a camera. I'm not sure about the compression question. The Z8 definitely can do full-res JPEGs and pre-release capture, but I'm digging around to see precisely what file options are available, he told me. And then he came back 15 minutes later, so he spent time on this. Nikon has not explicitly stated why the Z8 or Z9 do not offer pre-release capture with raw images, but is presumably due to a bandwidth limitation. When you rightly note that the Z8 has very strong buffer performance and can shoot hundreds of frames, at least with high-efficiency raw recording, there is speculation that the camera utilizes a different processing pipeline for pre-capture than standard burst photography. Nikon won't say one way or the other, and given that the Z8 and Z9 haven't received raw pre-release capture via firmware, despite getting a lot of other features with post-launch support, I think it's a safe bet that the Z8 is simply incapable of raw pre-release capture, at least in the state that meets Nikon's broader performance standards and expectations. Concerning getting the best quality out of pre-release capture, when the camera is set to 30 FPS burst mode, it should still record JPEG fine, with further size reduction and file quality degradation at 60 and 120. Given the limitations of even fine JPEG quality, which can still look good in ideal situations, the Z8 owners will want to prioritize nailing the exposure in camera at the time of capture. Those JPEG files fall apart quickly. And then he adds here, this is undoubtedly one of the biggest knocks against the Z8 for wildlife photography, and hopefully Nikon has taken the criticism to heart and is working on overcoming any processing or bandwidth limitations in future models. Jeremy Gray. Yeah. He's big smart.
Yeah, it's just sad. I can, you can imagine the face every time we ask the reps and execs, like, why can't your camera do this? When is it going to do this? There's a certain look, and it's like a shame. It's like a shame look. It's like I know. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's just yeah, we know. That's basically the answer we get. Like, yeah, they just can't do it. So sucks. Just
anything to add, Jordan?
No. What an incredible note to wrap up this section on.
Well, in that case,
sucks.
To end the episode, we'll go with a feel-good story of the week.
They
Yeah.
got great burst rates. I mean, you can shoot wildlife with them, no problem. But pre-capture is nice to have. It's a very useful feature, and it's sad that they're not able to shoot RAW. And I
I
consider
bet
that
it gets better in the
largely
Z9 mark,
unusable. Yeah.
All right, so the feel-good story of the week is a photographer was poking around in a thrift store and found a $2,000 Leica for $10.49. It's a single-stroke M3 Leica M3.
Yeah. Yeah, 2000 maybe nowadays. I don't know. I don't remember them being that much. We used to sell a lot of M3 double strokes. Double strokes are maybe I always remember them being the like less desirable version, to be honest. We would always get inundated with double strokes.
Oh, sorry, it's a double stroke. This is a double stroke M3.
It's a double stroke, yeah.
And there's one at KEH for $2,000, but if you purchase it directly through Leica Classic, it's $4,600.
Wow.
Anyway,
no,
it's
I'm
more
not-
than
it's just interesting.
$10.50.
When we sold them used at the camera store, a double stroke in this condition would be like $800. But maybe everything's just kind of gone up like crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's a great find. I think it's better than $10. That's amazing.
Jaron, this is the feel-good story of the week, but let me tell you, I am aggravated by it because every once in a while we get a story like this that convinces me, like, hey, maybe I should go walk through like the thrift store or something and
there's
see if
just
maybe I can
garbage
find a
in there.
sweet deal. And there's nothing, and I've wasted endless hours just like, oh, maybe over in the camera section here I'm going to find a gem. Never found a gem. So once again, another news story on PetaPixel giving me false hope.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, you tell
Hopefully
me.
it doesn't need too much work. I mean, they usually do. But I mean, yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's still the story that I heard of the person who found one at a yard sale. It was the original Nikon 1 rangefinder. I mean, that was tens of thousands of dollars at this point.
Some people are just lucky, Jordan. Maybe you're just not a lucky person.
I think we've
Stuck with me,
established
so I
that.
guess not.
All right. So before we end the episode, a little bit of scheduling housekeeping for everyone. Next week, the podcast will be published on Saturday, the 13th, provided that we can make the time to record it prior to the hell that will be starting that week. So
Sure we can.
we're going to do our best, but even so, if something happens and there's things we don't talk about, it's because we had to record it way before any of those things happened. But expect that on the 13th. And then I think we are skipping the next episode because I don't know that we have time. So we will do our best, but thanks for joining us this week, folks. This was a nice little bit of a window, as Jordan said, into when things are normal schedule. And we're immediately going to throw that out the door.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one. See ya. Bye.
Bye.